Welcome to our 2024 season of the Cloud Industry Forum presents TWF. We're speaking to you live from our mixed reality studio here with the help of our friends Disruptive Live. And on this TechWave Forum podcast, we interview guests from our members, someone with something to say about cloud technology or AI or digital transformation or leadership, or with ideas about what's coming next. I'm David Terrar. I'm the CEO of the Cloud Industry Forum, which is a not-for-profit trade body which champions and helps accelerate the adoption of cloud technology and services. If you want to find out more about what we do and how we help, go to cloudindustryforum.org. I'm at DT on X, David_Terrar on Threads and Instagram, and I'm easy to find on the web and LinkedIn and stuff. Now, in today's show, we'll be talking about AI and how it impacts the future of work and how CIOs are dealing with the new challenge. And we're talking with a respected and influential analyst who's also a great friend and colleague and ex-business partner. And if I tell you that the thing we worked together was called Web 2.0 University, you'll realise we've known each other for a while, actually since 2006. So a big Enterprise Irregulars welcome to Dion Hinchcliffe. Dion, fantastic to see you. Please can you introduce yourself and your new company?
Well, sure. Thanks, David. Yeah, it's been a long time. We've been working together in the industry, and it's interesting where it's all gone these days. And so right now, I'm a VP of the CIO practice at Futurum, the Futurum Group. They're an up and coming analyst and media firm, and I'm working on building our CIO community and a platform that connects them to the latest intelligence, data, and of course AI. So. That's what I'm working on these days. But I've always pretty much been in the industry, working on the cutting edge of whatever is emerging, but for the enterprise. I don't work on the consumer technology side. I really work on how technology is transforming businesses, because that's the hardest part, as it turns out.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into what you're doing a bit more, tell us a bit about your history and what got you into the analyst and influencer world in the first place.
Well, I've been involved in technology a very long time. I had the very first Macintosh way back in the day. But I very quickly, even when I was quite young, started working with chief information officers in my early 20s. And during the big dot-com boom in the 90s, I ended up going to the East Coast of the United States, getting involved in some very, very large projects. I eventually ended up being chief architect for a top mutual fund company in the United States, and then one of the chief architects for the Missile Defense Agency for their advanced battle manager. Huge projects, working on the global portfolio management system and the defense system that actually works to protect the United States around the world from missile attacks. And so you end up working on, if you're in IT, that's a if you're on a big project, that's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week type of affair. And I did that for years and years. And so after a while, I realized I made my point. I'd build very big things and I'd ship them successfully. But it was kind of time to really enjoy the industry a little bit. And so I moved on to the industry analyst side, where I could travel, I could write, I could speak, and I wouldn't have to be on delivery with my son sleeping under my desk on release night. That's the kind of life you lead if you're in the trenches on big IT projects. And so, and it's been a nice switch. I now have a life, and have had one for a long time. I get to travel, I meet interesting people like yourself, David, and it's a much more rewarding. I think it's a nice kind of second career to have.
Excellent. Now, we're talking AI today. Give us your take on this new era of generative AI that we're living through. Has it surprised you in the way it's taken off and kept flying?
So, yeah, it's very interesting. We didn't expect AI to show up quite the way that it did, and it's been around a long time, as you know, David. Had 30, 40 years, and there was a couple of almost near breakthroughs, and I was even involved in one of them in the 90s with fourth generation systems and things like that, 4GLs. The What's really been striking is that finally one company realized how big a game it was going to be, and this is OpenAI, and they switched from being a not for profit for profit, because Sam Altman had the singular insight that you need massive amounts of compute power to really sort through the world's knowledge. truly massive, bigger than Google, and that was really the genius of GPT 3.5 and 4. He proved that you're going to need to marshal truly vast resources, and that's what kept the next breakthrough from happening. We now realize it was like this: we needed enormous amount of compute and processing time in order to be able to make sense of all of this knowledge and really kind of connect it into it and synthesize it into a body of knowledge, one kind of universal model for everything that we know. And that was really the breakthrough, and I think that was a surprise to a lot of people, that that's what it was really going to take, and they proved it. That was the right direction, at least in this generation of AI. And now I think some of the bloom is off the rose. Of course, there's the hype cycles turn the other way. There's lots of concerns about the junk that some of these models can produce. I think that almost all of the criticism, however, is mostly short term, is kind of short sighted, because we know. I mean, I track the more rigorous tests that are being done with these AIs, and they are basically near the maximum of human intelligence already. They can pass the bar, the log exam, 90% level, things like that. So this is very important breakthrough, maybe the biggest breakthrough that all of us have been involved in.
Absolutely. So, what's your vision of how this fits in with transforming the way CIOs are engaged in strategic decision making?
Well, it's interesting. I work with a lot of different AI startups, and I get to see what they're doing. And the tools that are coming down the pike for the CIO are going to change everything. So we've kind of been in this very parochial, primitive early days of IT, is what we realize now. We have this patchwork of legacy systems that we acquired over many years, and we didn't have any tools that allowed us to really manage them and upgrade them, to orchestrate them, to transform them. And those tools are coming powered by AI, where they can look at all the code that we have, and you can ask the AI. I have one company that I work with, not very closely, but they're a bunch of the ex OpenAI folks, who created the kind of a lot of the original um, success components of Chat GPT. They're building a model that will look at all of the enterprise's IT systems, all the code, and then you can say, I want you to transform this into a serverless model that can run in Azure. I need you to standardize it on, let's say, Java or Power Builder, or not Power Builder, Power Apps, or whatever it is that you want to, and create a brand new baseline. I need you to also patch all the security flaws along the way that you're doing that. And I want you to generate all of that by tomorrow morning. And that's what these systems will do. We're going to have this ability to understand and control and transform our organizations with just a simple AI request. That's what's coming. And this is going to work. And that's the kind of uh, very strategic tool that is coming to IT leaders right now. And you'll be able to ask questions about it too. What are my big weaknesses? What are better ways for me to mind my processes and transform them? Where are all the opportunities for me to put AI into the business? That's where these tools are really going to show all the opportunities that humans just don't have the capacity, the bandwidth to actually go and find.
What do you think CIOs need to do to act quickly on these AI opportunities, and how do you navigate these rapid shifts?
Well, I mean, that's the key question. Um, so I've talked to maybe close to 250 CIOs in the last year, mostly from large organizations. And the most, and I've said this many times before, the most obvious trend that we see is that boards are putting CIOs under a lot of pressure to do something competitively significant with AI. And because they're worried that a startup or their competitors are going to use AI, put it in the middle of their business, and beat them about the head and shoulders, right? Take their customers, and that's a board level concern. This is what boards do. They look for big threats on the horizon, and they prepare the organization for them. And so they're going to the CIO saying, "Do something now." And CIOs have a challenge because the technology is too early. The stacks aren't baked yet. We don't even know who the big companies are going to be, because we're going to see a few more disruptions in AI, and uh, making big bet the business decisions about AI is difficult in that environment. Yet they're being asked to do that. So whether what most organizations are doing is what they always do. They're making targeted bets in marketing, sales, customer service, anything that isn't around the edges that can help and prove the path. But if it fails, it was not going to take the business down. They're not going to launch a new AI powered, fundamentally AI powered service. But that's about 60 to 70% of organizations. And you have another 20% that they're willing to take some risks. And then you have about 5 to 10% of organizations that are taking moonshots. They're launching big new AI services that that are kind of almost bet the business type of thing. So that's how they're navigating the shifts, right? So most of them are conservative, some of them are going a little faster, and a few are going big, and that's what it's always been like, except that the board is right. They have to do something, and that's I think we'll see a few very interesting things happen over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Now, changing gears slightly, what are the impacts of AI will have on a topic that's close to both of our hearts, and that's the future of
Yeah.
work?
Well, the other thing that this generation of AI is brought to us is real democratization. It's kind of the Googleization of AI. Anyone can use it. Uh, if you can type, you can use powerful AI, and so that's kind of interesting. The fact that we can put powerful AI in the hands of every single worker now. That's possible today. And if you don't give it to them, they will give it to themselves. And so a lot of organizations haven't been prepared for that. Bigger companies, they started blocking these things right away because they're worried about losing their intellectual property, exposing the privacy of their customers. There was all these concerns about this, and so the impact of AI has actually been fairly substantial in that it's showing up in every single existing application that you have. Uh, Workers want it, so they're pulling it to themselves. If you don't give it to them, if you don't give them something good, then they'll use something on their own. I've had talk with chief information security officers where they actually have these scans where they can see workers not doing anything for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden a huge amount of content comes through the network, where because they were using their own personal AI to generate something, not on a company system, and then they were pasting that in. So that's the kind of thing that's happened. Shadow AI is a really big deal, and it is a concern. But that's not the exciting part. The exciting part is it will transform just about everything that we do, and turn most workers into very. They have to become very strategic, and they get to think about how the business runs and what it should be doing as opposed to doing the work. The work in now and already in so many places we see this even in software development. AI is writing so much code now that the work's going to be done by AI and it's going to be directed by humans. At least that's what we hope. Even the direction part, though, could be at risk because the AI has got the time and the bandwidth to spend watching everything and guiding it. So we'll become the managers of AI, both in work and in management itself.
So your premise is that it's going to help us do a more creative and strategic things, and it's not going to take away jobs?
No, it'll take away jobs. But no technology revolution has destroyed more jobs than it's created. And I've spent a lot of time looking at that data to make sure that's right. And just like the printing press was superseded by the book, and that threw off many more industries. So now you had newspapers, and you had textbooks, and everyone can get a Bible and that sort of thing. It created entire cottage industries, and then you had to have all the people who repaired those devices and produced the equipment, and that required entire supply chains to create a printing press for all the different parts. So that created more industries. Whereas before it was just some scribes and some paper makers, and that was about it. Um, Moving from the printing from handwriting books to the printing press threw off dozens of industries, and AI has already thrown off those dozens of industries, and it'll create hundreds more. And that's so I in the short term, it's disruptive to jobs. Let's be absolutely clear. I see it, the data. I presented that information. We see it especially in knowledge work and the creative parts. This is the thing: is the AI is happy to do all the poetry and paint all the paintings for us. It has the time and bandwidth to do that. That's the scary part. Is it's it's not. I worry that a lot of the creative work is going to go away, and we see this. There was a new article today about how a 60-person writing team was just replaced by AI. Uh, it was at an enormous cost, and now it's doing it a fraction of the cost. So that's the future. And so we're going to have to find a way of soft landing it in our economies, and help workers make that transition.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, tell us something about the AI-driven development platforms, which will help democratize app creation by allowing non-technical users to build and refine applications.
Um, yeah, so just like low code and no code really became a thing the last couple of years, AI application development is going to revolutionize everything. You can do it now. Most people can now write an application at least to a medium level of complexity before it gets out of control. I'd have AI do it for them already today, and so it's in the next 5 years. What you're going to see is going to be utterly transformative. Very few people will just use off the shelf applications when they can get exactly what they want by talking for a few minutes with an AI. And Google already has these great demonstrations where it's not just creating the app, but maintaining it and evolving it can be done very easily with AI. They have these amazing demonstrations but working tools you can use today that will not just create this app for you, but really allow you to maintain it and evolve it and add all the right features. Then you can say, make sure you're compliant with GDPR. I need you to completely update this app so it's compliant with GDPR for me now that you've done this, and it will do it. And that is going to change a great deal, and it's going to change service providers, system integrators, application developers, solution providers are all that whole ecosystem is going to be impacted. They're going to use those tools too, but they're going to have to account for the fact that people can just go directly to these tools and do it themselves. And so it's going to be a self-service revolution. And I think that a lot of those experts are going to come in and try to clean up the mess that results, because you're going to have so many more apps, so many more integration points. You are still going to need experts who will use AI, of course, but to sort through and make sense and rationalize all those things.
Great. Now, are there particular sectors that AI will benefit, or will it actually be every sector eventually?
Well, clearly, it's going to be every single sector, but some more than others. So uh, certain sectors are going to be impacted just by AI regulation. So if you look at Europe's AI Act, you can't use it, where human life, can be affected. So you can't use it in weapon systems, things like that. Which all those things make sense to me. So those sectors will be less impacted because I actually can't use AI at all. But then you see that places that have always been aggressive early adopters, things like financial services, they've always been using AI since it was available. Now they're using this in spades for sure. But what's interesting is there's some areas that are really impacted, like healthcare is going to be impacted a lot more than people think, even though it's regulated, because the data continues to show that the best AIs are a little bit better than human doctors because they can more thoroughly examine all of the evidence, all of the existing publications. They're more up to date on everything that's out there on medical research. So they're able to diagnose things better that are unusual, especially unusual cases. Uh, I've even talked to people, more than one person, who said that they've had a long-standing condition that they had diagnosed with AI. We couldn't was undiagnosed by a series of human doctors, but diagnosed accurately right away by AI. And then now there's data that backs that up. Now, does it still make mistakes? Yes, it still makes mistakes, but it's in many cases it's more accurate and certainly cheaper. And so we're gonna see it pervade healthcare far faster, especially in drug discovery and a bunch of other areas. Google has their AlphaFold, which has come up with more drugs for more treatments than we know how to test for. We don't have the testing capacity to come up with all the drugs that it is already predicted that he said this molecule will solve this disease, this molecule will solve that disease. It's coming up with molecules faster than we can verify them. So all that's super exciting. So some sectors are going to be utterly disrupted like that.
Very good, very good. Now, you mentioned regulation. What about the impact of kind of data quality and data governance in all this?
The so the organizations that have been under investing in that and hoping that that problem will go away and solve itself are in for a rude awakening. It's uh, AI is powered by the data that you have, and if you haven't been marshaling your company's data and haven't been a good steward and you haven't been organizing it, and putting it, opening it up across your organization, and making the sunlight shine on it so you can make the quality what it needs to be, then you have a few years before you can actually benefit from the private AI, which is every organization needs to build their own models of their data so they can get it out there and working in all the different places. Because most of the time in the enterprise, we build solutions for specific problems, but what the reality is the data can be used 100 different ways, 1,000 different ways, and you don't know which way it can be. And when you democratize it in a generative model, it can be used in all those different situations with just a query. So you're going to get much more value out of your data. But if you don't have the quality and you haven't been governing it properly, you now have to go and do all that work, which is going to be an enormously expensive and time consuming operation. We saw this with digital transformation. The high data management maturity organizations did much better. They moved much faster with digital transformation because they could get to their data, and it was actually good data. It wasn't just designed for that one specific function. It was of high quality, so it could be reused across the organization. Those organizations transformed more quickly, and so with AI transformation, we're going to see the same pattern. Those who invested before are going to get the rewards. And so it's very interesting to watch.
Excellent. Now, this is a technological advancement, but is it driving a fundamental shift in the philosophy of work? We have to sort of rethink roles and responsibilities, maybe.
Yeah, I would be curious to see what you think about this, David, because I know that how involved in the future of work you are. Yeah, it can drive a fundamental shift in the philosophy of work, because more work can be done by AI than humans. The lion's share of capacity is, just like in the industrial revolution, the lion's share of capacity is actually in the machines. They can stay up all night. They can work 24 hours a day. You can make as many of them as you want. They can make themselves. And AI is going to be that on steroids, but for knowledge work. We will have infinitely available bots that'll get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to do all the work. And so the philosophy is up to us. If all of this isn't serving humans, there's no point to it. And so we can keep our existing philosophy and to say, look, all of this AI has to be for the benefit of humans. All this technology has to benefit us. If it's hurting us, then why are we using it? And so I think it is going to create it's going to force us to ask questions and see what our philosophy really is. We should have it, but we haven't been forced. It has been tested. And so AI is going to test our philosophy of work like never before. And it will, as you say, require that reevaluation of roles and responsibilities. And so I hope we do the right thing. And sometimes I worry that we won't. Um, but we're going to have to, as humans, come up to, find a way to stand up to the challenge to say, what do we really want to use this for? And what do we not want to use it for, so that it's serving us and not hurting us. And so that's going to be interesting.
Now, that's been great. What's your key advice for our audience in tackling these AI opportunities and challenges?
Well, we touched on one. That's that data management. Getting the quality and the governance, getting a house in order. But if you have that, you need to aggressively experiment. In fact, even if you don't have that, you should be experimenting. You've got to learn the skills and the tools, the terminology, the concepts. AI, it goes deep. The AI technology stack goes much deeper. It's not like a SQL database. There's some very advanced technologies, and they'll get easier to use. But if you're really try and build private AI for yourself, and you're almost certainly going to need help with vendors to do that. But it doesn't matter. To make sure that you actually know what's happening and you can maintain control of your data, you actually have to understand how this technology works, where your data goes, how it's transformed, how it's reused. One of the biggest things that's being added to these commercial AIs is is that they propagate the security model from the underlying data sources, so that people can't see things that they would not have access to normally in the old systems. They shouldn't have it in the new system. But just knowing to look for that and to check it and to continually verify that that's the case, you have to understand that is even happening or how it works. So it's really important to learn this new, and that it's a large world. And so most people need to have much more AI fluency and literacy than they have today. And large parts of the organization need to now have deep AI literacy as quickly as they can build it. And that's my advice: is spend the time experimenting, learning the deep AI tech stack, and get your data house in order if you haven't already.
I totally agree. Now, that has been a fantastic conversation, Dion. Thank you so much. It's been illuminating, loads of fantastic insights. If people want to find out more about what you do and what Futurum does, how do they find you? How do they find Futurum?
So you can find my profile. I just now have some research coming out, so I've only been there a short while. You can find us at thefuturumgroup.com. If you're looking for more of my kind of wide-ranging what's coming up in the world, go to dionhinchcliffe.com. And you can always find me noodling around with the latest ideas and news on Twitter, now called X, at D Hinchcliffe.
That's fantastic, Dion. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, great to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing Dion's take on this new era of AI that we're living through. Lots of great advice, lots of great insights, really cool stuff. We'll be back live with a new guest next Wednesday at 14:30 UK time. We want your feedback, your suggestions. Maybe you want to be a guest on the show. Put something in the comments here or email us at info@cloudindustryforum.org. We look forward to hearing from you, and we hope to see you next week or next time.